Have you ever heard of Shadowverse? Neither have I. Apparently, it's some sort of a digital trading card game in the same vein as Hearthstone. When I saw that this game was getting released, I have to say, my interest was piqued. I've been itching to play a new trading card game for a while now, but really didn't know where to go. So, in a field where we have no card game RPGs, does this game stand out, or is it a bit of a failure? Let's get into it.
I've always loved trading card games. I got my start with the Pokemon TCG way back when I was a kid. You guys remember that Game Boy game where you went around collecting the 8 elemental medals by playing the card game, and then playing against an Elite Four to get the legendary cards? What a great game. I really want to review it for the channel one day, and its Japanese-only sequel as well. While the Pokemon TCG, especially back then, was pretty simple, I loved the concept of a trading card game RPG, a vehicle for me to experience the game as a single player and giving me access to the cards by playing the game instead of just buying packs after packs after packs with real money. Games like Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards scratched a similar itch, but that game kinda compromised Yu-Gi-Oh's core mechanics by adding elemental weaknesses, so I felt like it wasn't really up to snuff. As a high schooler, I got into Magic the Gathering. This game introduced me to way more advanced and fascinating mechanics. Mana management, the difference between aggro, control, and combo decks. Playing in Friday Night Magic, I began to define myself as a mid-range player playing a green-white human token deck. I never did win, but I did manage to get to the final round once and convince the guy to split the prize with me because I knew he would beat me. In college, I played a lot of Hearthstone. I played so much Hearthstone. It was practically the only game I played, to the point that during the first few expansions, I could build almost any deck. I discovered a love for control decks there, and really began to understand the concept of card value and tempo. And this section wasn't to tell you my life story, but to lay the foundation that I love trading card games and I'm familiar with how they work. When I heard that XSeed was localizing Shadowverse Champions Battle, I was intrigued. I had never heard of this particular card game before, and it looked way too anime. But I've always said that I wanted more card game RPGs, so there we go. I felt like I had to try it out. Luckily, the game came with a demo. Lets you see enough of the game before you spend the $50, and if you're interested in this game after this review, I highly recommend you check out the demo. Whether you enjoy the game or not will depend on if you like Shadowverse the card game. Shadowverse is a Hearthstone clone, pure and simple. You can even play it on your phone, where it's apparently much farther along and more complex. Shadowverse Champions Battle only contains the classic set and the first 2 expansions. As a newcomer, I really liked this, as it allowed me to learn the essence of the game quickly, and the expansions are added slowly, so I could get used to the new cards at a reasonable pace. The core rules of Shadowverse are this. Each player has 20 hit points. You gain mana, called power points in this game, at a rate of 1 per turn, unless you earn them in other ways, like playing a specific card. The goal is to play followers. In other games, these are referred to as minions or creatures, and you can play spells in order to bring your opponent's health down to 0. The only real difference the game has from Hearthstone is that it introduces an evolution mechanic. Every follower can be evolved, which will usually add 2 points to both attack and defense, and it will allow them to attack enemy followers on the turn that they're played. Some followers even have added effects when they evolve. Now, evolution can really change the board state. For one, I usually leverage it for value. Instead of trading my followers into my opponent's bigger follower, I can play a big follower and have it attack immediately and then still survive. In addition, some of these evolution effects are really powerful. Floral Fencer, for instance. She might only gain +1 in attack and defense, but she also spawns a 2/2 and a 1/1. That's a bonus of 4 stats across 3 different followers and has an immediate impact on the board state. it borders, if it's not entirely, on the overpowered. Now, while the evolution concept is cool, I don't think it's balanced very well. But it's not the mechanic itself, as everyone can use it equally. Rather, it's in how many times a player can do it. The player to go first can draw one card on his first turn and evolve twice. The player to go twice can draw 2 cards on his first turn and evolve 3 times. This means that you have a huge advantage if you go second, both in the opportunities you have in drawing the cards you need at the beginning for a good curve, and in the opportunities you have to leverage evolution for your advantage. There are countless matches I lost that I knew I would have won had I gone second, and upon going second, I promptly won. I don't know if this is the same in the current Shadowverse meta, but certainly in Champions Battle, you want to go second. Shadowverse is divided into 7 classes: Shadowcraft, Runecraft, Dragoncraft, Swordcraft, Bloodcraft, Havencraft, and Forestcraft. All of these are around different mechanics, but can be used in all different archetypes. In other words, you can use all of these classes to play aggro, control, mid-range, or combo decks. For me, I mained Swordcraft. My decks tended to revolve around filling the board with a number of small followers and then beefing them up with buffs for my other minions. This would allow me to play for value and eventually whittle the opponent down. When that strategy wouldn't work, I would switch to a Runecraft combo deck that focused on drawing cards and controlling the board just long enough to get to a point where I could play several of my own turns in a row, slam down some big followers, prevent the opponent from taking their turn, and bam, you have victory. I should note that I didn't design those decks myself. I could have, nothing was stopping me, but I've always been a player that prefers to leave deck building to the professionals. I'd rather copy a deck list and learn how to play the deck. Champions Battle lets you replicate that experience. Upon defeating a new opponent, or rather, upon defeating an opponent's deck for the first time, since they improve and have different decks as the game progresses, you will get a deck list from that character, called a deck code by the game. Once you get enough cards, you'll be able to make that deck with the click of a button. It's a great way to get players to experiment with different playstyles without having to know how to make decks, but the option is always there if you wanted to. There is a bit of a downside, though. For reasons I understand, card acquisition can be pretty slow. You'll get all the commons and uncommons easily enough, but getting full sets of 3 for rares and legendaries can take a really long time. You acquire cards by either buying packs or buying them as singles, but singles are expensive, and not every card you'll need will be available. This is compounded by the fact that some of the deck codes you can get early on rely on cards that you can only acquire by completing side quests way later in the game, and the game doesn't really tell you that. This only applies to decks from the main characters, but it still annoyed me. Only at the very end of the game can you work for specific cards in a way that isn't dependent on them being available at shadow vendors, and even then, you need to have a copy of the card already. That being said, I can certainly understand wanting to make the grind for cards a longer process. It's a constant feedback loop that makes you want to play the game more and more. If you got all the cards too quickly, the game would run out of things to reward you with. Personally, I would be fine with that, as I was playing to just get through it by around chapter 6 or so, but I get the design decision. Before we move on to the story, I want to highlight one more feature: Shadowverse puzzles. At the Shadowverse Arena, and for a few side quests you find along the way, the game will present you with a pre-made board and a pre-made hand, and then tell you to figure out how to bring your opponent's health to 0 or to destroy all the enemy followers, depending on the puzzle. I really like these. At the beginning of the spectrum, it's a way for the game to teach you the basic strategies and tactics for all of the classes, even those you don't play. It's a great way to earn experience and gold too, so you can grind out card packs. But when you get to some of the later medium and hard puzzles, holy shit do these get tough. Some of them I could figure out, but some of them I simply could not. Shout out to NGuy Gamer, who has uploaded all of the solutions to YouTube. I simply could not have done some of these without those videos. You're doing God's work. As for the story, well, it's really stupid. It's really stupid. You start off as a new student of the school. On your first day, you run into Hiro Ryugasaki, a hot-headed youth who is absolutely obsessed with Shadowverse. He and his friends take you in and teach you how to play the game. You all then decide that you have to go and find the Shadowverse Club, a club at the school you're not even sure exists. With a little bit of running around and Shadowverse playing, you find it. The Shadowverse Club is one guy, Rei Saotome. And as soon as you find it, the student council president, Kagura Kirasame, arrives to shut the club down. Apparently, in order for a club to be official, it must have 7 official members, and Rei is the only one. Also, for some reason, Kagura is obsessed with clubs showing results. And if you don't show results, it's alright for this student to come down and shut down your club.
Okay, first of all, what the fuck kind of rule enforcement is this? Ray has just been sitting in this classroom, minding his own business, playing a children's card game on his phone. Nobody's bothered him up until now, but now all of a sudden, Kagura wants to shut it down. Second of all, what kind of power dynamics are we experiencing in this school? This is an officially sanctioned club sponsored by a faculty member, and this student can just walk on up and decide that she's going to shut it down. Who the fuck gives a student that much kind of power? Third of all, what the hell kind of results are you expecting? These are a bunch of high schoolers who want to play a children's card game. That makes no sense.
The answer? Win the national championship. In order to allow the club to exist, your party has all agreed to recruit 2 more members and go on to win the national championship. Now, this is not like the national championship of high schoolers. It's not the national championship for amateurs. It is the national championship with literally professional players. And if you don't win, the club is toast. You, who have only learned the game 20 minutes ago, accept the terms. Apparently no one thought that they could just meet in the room anyway and play Shadowverse without Kagura saying okay. That lays out the narrative structure of the game. For the first few chapters, you're running around trying to recruit new members, and then for the remainder, you're winning smaller tournaments in order to qualify for nationals. As the story progresses, you'll be introduced to other characters that want to take you out, like the Jobert sisters, or who want you to become stronger so that they can then beat you and then become stronger. Language like this really shows the absurd premise of the plot. Everything is tied to Shadowverse. How does getting better at a children's card game help Luca protect his sister, who's in the hospital? No fucking clue. How does beating me at a children's card game help the guy who hired the Jobert sisters to take me out? No fucking clue. At least with something like Yu-Gi-Oh!, they invented the concept of the Shadow Realm, which adds some real-world stakes to these card games. But Shadowverse has none of that. The most absurd character, and the one I hated the most, was Rei. Skip to this time code on the screen to avoid spoilers, but I assure you that this story is not one you should really care about spoiling. Throughout the first part of the game, Rei stands aloof from the rest of the group. We're all working to become better to win tournaments, and Rei gradually stops showing up. When he does show up, he just keeps sighing and wishing things could be different. He wishes he could be more like me. Eventually, he just drops out of the school entirely, and you are asked to go find him. Turns out, he's enrolled in another school, and has been playing Shadowverse in the underground arena, a hardcore area for hardcore players. Finally, you face him in the championship, where he reveals why he's been so bothered and why he had to leave.
His reason? Ray doesn't like to play Shadowverse. He likes to win at Shadowverse. For some reason, that makes him evil. I'm sitting here saying all the game lets me do is win at Shadowverse. If I lose a game, I have to keep replaying the match until I win. My character canonically cannot lose at Shadowverse. It's the whole fucking point of the game. But the main bad guy, oh, he likes to win too much. And here's another thing I want to bring up. Kagura was going to shut the club down until we had 7 official members. Well, this guy, our president, has not been a student at the school for like half the game. So we've only had 6 members. Kagura's sitting here at the national championship telling us if we don't win the national championship, we're going to be shut down. But bitch, the club has not been officially sanctioned for half the game because we only have 6 members. This plot does not make any sense.
Okay, spoilers over. I don't mean to exclusively complain about the story, but I did not enjoy the majority of it. There are some good moments, particularly in the side quests centered around the more interesting characters. I thought the side quests where you play detective with Kai were at least entertaining, and the side quests where you show Vivian around the city and show her a good time were pretty great. But other than that, the narrative is just skin deep. And the same goes for side quests. There are 2 kinds of side quests, generic side quests and core character side quests. Generic side quests are just that. You talk to somebody, they give you a task to do, usually but not always, involving a game of Shadowverse, and then you get a reward. This reward is either Shadowverse cards or coins to buy Shadowverse cards. Character side quests are a bit more involved. They star a key character in the narrative and serve to give them larger emotional depth by exploring their backstory a bit more. This is a great idea in theory, although with some of the characters, like Hero, I don't think there's enough of a good character there to really flesh out. You need to do these quests if you want to get their signature cards though, so you should absolutely do them if you're at all interested in building their decks. Some of these cards, like Hero's Ignis Dragon, are overpowered as hell, so it's worth it to do so if all you care about is building the strongest decks you can. So what's my verdict on this game? Well, I'm mixed. On the one hand, while playing through the narrative, I constantly felt like my time was being wasted on bad writing and absurd story ideas. However, I found the core card game to be an absolute blast to play. So I stuck with all 45 hours I've played to get credits. I will say that there appears to be an extensive post-game after you win the national championships, but in order to beat the post-game, you have to collect something like 100 deck codes in order to face the real final boss. I saw that and I said, fuck that, I got credits, I'm Shadowversed out. I might come back from time to time to play a game here and there and grind that out on my own time, but for the purposes of this review, I'm done. Playing through the game was exhausting, and so, if you're going to play it, I recommend playing it in short bursts. A few matches of Shadowverse here and there before bed, not really playing it for hours on end. Play it along a different game. Only the most hardcore card game lover can really go for that long and not get burnt out.
Overall, I think I liked this game. I mean, I did play 45 hours. At the same time, if you're going to play this game, you have to really like trading card games. There's nothing else left in the game that holds any sort of appeal unless you just really like playing trading card games. I do. That's why I could keep playing. But this is not a game for everybody. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Please share this video with a friend if you can, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a great day.